India, a land celebrated for its unity in diversity. But what if I told you this unity is collapsing not because of religion or borders, but because of language? For decades, we have proudly claimed that our country's strength lies in its diversity. But under this pride lies a silent war, Hindi versus non-Hindi. The divide is growing deeper every day. The North gets most of the attention, while the South is often treated like a second-class citizen. And here is the hard truth. Whenever the South follows the center government's rules, we are the ones who always end up losing. Take taxes for example. Did you know Karnataka gets only 13.9 rupees back for every 100 it contributes? Tamil Nadu manages slightly better at 29.7. But when you look at the states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they receive 333 and 922 respectively. Is this fair or is this another example of systematic bias? I will explore this more later in this video. And it doesn't end with taxes. Let's talk about representation. In the upcoming 2026 delimitation, Uttar Pradesh will gain 48 extra MP seats in the Lok Sabha and Bihar will add 30 more. Simply because they didn't follow the population control rules. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu will get just 2 additional MP seats and Kerala will lose 1. Why? Because we followed the population control rules set by the central government. But instead of being rewarded, we are punished with fewer voices in the Lok Sabha. Is this justice or a betrayal of progress? And now it's the same with Hindi. In the name of unity and better communication, there is an increasing push to make Hindi dominant over Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada and others. But here is the truth. South India doesn't need Hindi to succeed. We have proven this time and again. From education to technology and governance, the South leads the way. Our progress doesn't depend on Hindi and never has. Now, let's talk about Hindi itself. Unlike the official language of the South, Hindi does not hold the prestigious status of classical language. It borrows heavily from Sanskrit, Urdu, Arabic, Persian and even English. In fact, it struggles to function independently. You can see the criteria to qualify as a classical language on the list of all 11 classical languages. So, why is the South punished for its progress while others are rewarded for ignoring responsibility? And this isn't just about language or representation, it's about survival. Whenever Hindi is imposed, the South resists not out of defense, but out of fear of losing its identity. We have seen this before. Look at Marathi in Mumbai. Once dominant, it has now been sidelined by Hindi and English. We don't want our languages, be it Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam or Kannada, to meet the same fate. And here is the reality. This isn't just a Mumbai problem. It's happening across India. But the way people react to Hindi imposition varies from state to state. If you try to impose Hindi on Telugu or Malayalam speakers, they might complain. But mostly, they will ignore it unless the state government supports it. But Tamil Nadu, not a chance. Tamilians don't wait for the government's approval. The moment they sense Hindi being imposed, they rise up in full force to protect their identity and culture. This resistance is not new. It's a fight for survival. It's deeply rooted in the history stemming from the anti-Hindi agitations of the 1960s. Back then, the South united and sent a clear message. We don't back down when it comes to protecting our identity. But here it's really concerning. If you look at Karnataka, especially Bengaluru, it's not just about opposing Hindi. They're against all languages like Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and even English. The real issue arises from auto drivers and pro-Kannada groups protesting against non-Kannada signboards. What makes it worse is the role of government in fueling these sentiments. Policies like reserving 70% of private sector jobs for Kannadigas only add fuel to the fire. While these policies may seem protective but could backfire, in the long run, they could hurt not just Karnataka's progress but also the unity of the entire nation. For the South, this isn't just a debate about language, it's about safeguarding our culture, history and pride, elements that define who we are. Our constitution recognizes 22 official languages, each with its own legacy and contribution to shaping its people. None is greater or lesser than others and all deserve respect. This is why we refuse to bow to the dominance of any single language. For your information, my mother tongue is Telugu, but I also speak Hindi because I did my graduation in the north. To survive there, like traveling around or buying groceries from the market, I had to learn Hindi and I did. The same applies to the people who come to the south. For example, if I were to say, I feel proud because even after staying in the north for 4 years, I never tried to learn or speak Hindi and claim it's my personal choice, wouldn't that come across as arrogant? That behavior would feel disrespectful to the local people there. And just like that, the same principle applies to those who come to the south. Now let's talk about politics. Politicians often claim that India needs Hindi as a common language to ensure unity and better communication. But here is my question. Are there children studying in Hindi medium schools? Are they getting degrees in Hindi? Absolutely not. Instead, their children are enrolled in top-notch English medium schools and prestigious universities abroad. So, If they don't depend on Hindi for success, why should the rest of us be forced to do so? If the central government is truly committed to promoting Hindi for national unity, why don't they take a bold step? Why not pass a law mandating that all colleges and universities, whether engineering, medical or management, teach exclusively in Hindi? Do they have the courage to implement such a policy? Of course not. They know it would derail India's global ambitions. Imagine studying MBBS or engineering entirely in Hindi. It's simply not possible. Yet, they expect us to learn Hindi and place the blame for India's lack of unity entirely on us. The fact is, we are already united. It's only the imposition of Hindi that creates division among us. Since independence, the idea of common language has been both sensitive and controversial. The makers of our constitution understood this. They believed a multilingual nation that celebrated the diversity of its people. Hindi was designated as an official language, not a national language. The intent was to promote Hindi alongside English for administrative purposes, not to overshadow or dominate other languages. But here is where the problem begins. Promoting Hindi often crosses into imposing Hindi. For many in the south, this isn't just about learning another language. It's about safeguarding our identity and preserving our languages against external pressure. Picture this. A Telugu speaker representing over 80 million people being told that their language is somehow secondary, or consider a Tamil speaker whose language has one of the oldest serving literatures in the world being asked to just adopt Hindi. Is this unity or linguistic domination? You tell me. Then there is a narrative that South Indians, particularly in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, excluding Bengaluru, are unfriendly towards North Indians who migrate here for work. Maybe yes, isolated incidents may exist, but to label an entire region as unwelcoming is misleading and unfair. It erases South India's long-standing tradition of hospitality and inclusivity. In fact, South India, Bengaluru excluded, has always been celebrated for embracing diversity and providing opportunities to people from all over the country. These baseless claims of conflict do nothing but create unnecessary divisions, overshadowing the true spirit of unity and coexistence. Let's be fair, Hindi as a common language does have its merits. It's spoken by over 40% of India's population, making it a practical tool for communication. In most of the northern states, Hindi is the primary language of everyday life, seamlessly connecting people across different regions. And yes, having a common language can help break barriers and promote a sense of national unity. But here is where it gets tricky. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. When a language is imposed, it feels less like a bridge and more like a bulldozer, erasing identities instead of embracing them. This is exactly why the South's resistance is so strong. Even institutions that symbolize India's global success, like the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, conduct their official communications in English, not Hindi. Why? Because English provides a neutral, inclusive platform. It doesn't discriminate against any linguistic group, ensuring that every voice is heard. Today, technology allows us to translate any language in just seconds. And let's be honest, most people today know basic English. We communicate with you in English, you communicate with us in English, and together we connect with the entire world in English. Yes, English has its roots in colonial history. But today, it's no longer about colonial influence. It has evolved into something entirely different, a global tool for communication, education and progress. It's a language that opens doors to opportunities not just within India, but across the world. South India's resistance isn't against Hindi or the North. It's a fight for fairness, equality and respect. We take immense pride in our languages, our culture and the significant contributions we have made to this nation. But if unity means erasing our identity or silencing our voices, then that isn't unity, it's oppression. On the topic of tax distribution, let's clear up a common misunderstanding. Our concern is with the central government, not the northern states as I mentioned before like Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. In fact, if the northern states develop to the same level as South Indian states, we believe that central government would reduce the funds allocated to them just as it currently does with the South Indian states and Maharashtra. The real issue is that our hard-earned money is often wasted under the pretext of uplifting underdeveloped states. Despite decades of funding to these regions, the promised development is nowhere to be seen. Roads crumble within a year of construction and bridges collapse before inauguration or soon after. These failures point to deeper problems like inefficiency and corruption that need urgent attention. What we ask of the central government is simple: ensure accountability, make sure resources are utilized effectively instead of being wasted. India doesn't need a national language. What it truly needs is a language of mutual respect. Why not celebrate linguistic diversity instead? Why not teach Hindi, but also Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and Malayalam and more? Let children grow up multilingual, appreciating the beauty of their neighbors' languages and cultures. The solution isn't about imposing a language, it's about encouraging mutual respect. Let Hindi be a bridge, not a bulldozer. Let it connect us, not crush us. Let's build an India that celebrates every voice, every culture and every language. So, let's ask ourselves, what kind of India do we want? Do we want a nation that silences its diversity, or one that rises together, celebrating every voice, every language and every culture? The choice is ours.